It's almost a $400 billion market cap creation opportunity purely for fintechs from India.
So almost 70% of digital payment flows today flow through fintechs. 50% of active broking accounts are powered by fintechs.
I think India has done a phenomenal job of marrying financial services with technology. I think almost we've taught the world how it's done, and fintechs are going to take anywhere from 60 to 70 billion dollars. So almost if you think of the fintech revenue pool, that's a 10x growth we're looking at from today, and that's phenomenal. We think it's been on 4 axes that value creation's happened. We call this the 4 E's. If you look at cost and TAT for pretty much anything in the financial services world, all these have come down by anywhere from 60 to 90%.
We see 3 broad buckets which excite us going ahead. We are seeing an emergence of multiple vertical, homogeneous, sort of specialized groups.
I think each of these merits deeper conversation and potentially an entire episode in itself. Okay, good. Sorry, I got that. Okay, that's done. Thank you. Hello. Yeah, what did I do? Okay, that's done. Hello and welcome to SummitUp by Elevation Capital, a series where we talk about the themes and spaces that deeply excite us about the Indian startup ecosystem and talk about our thesis on how we see some of these opportunities playing out. Today, we go deep into the fintech opportunity in India. Fintech has been a space in which Elevation has been deeply involved for more than the past 2 decades. We were very early partners of Paytm when it was still 197, a mobile Vaas company, and the word QR code did not exist in the consumer lexicon. Since then, we have partnered with more than 25 audacious founders who have gone on to build category-defining companies like Acco, Axio, Uni, and several more. Today with me, I have Vaas and Kshitij from the Fintech team. Welcome to the pod, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Excellent. Let's get this rolling. Fintech and chatting with you guys is something that I've been really looking forward to on this series. Let me kick this off with just this awe that I have of the fintech ecosystem that we have in India. Every time I have a cousin or a relative visiting me from the US or from Singapore, I think one of the first things that they realize if they're coming after a few years is the ease of fintech and of payments in India is something that surpasses anything that they see back there, right, in the developed world. How did this happen? How is this Indian fintech system so big and so vibrant?
No, see, that resonates a lot, what you're saying. I think India has done a phenomenal job of marrying financial services with technology. I think almost we've taught the world how it's done, and everybody who comes in says, what is this? And let me learn from this. And hence, I think we are one of the most vibrant fintech ecosystems in the world. Last I checked, about 10,000 fintechs actively building in this space. $6 billion flew in last year into this space, almost 3x of what it was 4 or 5 years ago. 15-20% of the funding coming into India is going into fintech. So all this is acting as a catalyst to keep this space going, right? So if a decade ago somebody told me this is where we'd be in terms of numbers, I would have taken this in a heartbeat. And it's a wonderful place to be. I think the other second order effect of this is I think both financial institutions and fintechs in India are some of the most mature and well-run organizations in the world, which means we have this army of operators who are future entrepreneurs who are going to come and keep building on this space. So almost we're in this very positive feedback loop that we are in. And I think this is just the foundation has been laid, and it's a fantastic, what a foundation it has been. And from here, I think we're only going to go exponentially across different sectors in fintech.
So fintechs have started to capture large and meaningful volume share in multiple sub-segments, right? So almost 70% of digital payment flows today flow through fintechs. Almost 45% of personal loans that are originated are through fintechs. 50% of active broking accounts are powered by fintechs. So across all financial services categories, there have been large outcomes created in fintech, right? So multiple unicorns, for example, across wealth, insurance, payments, lending, and fintech SaaS. So we continue to be quite excited by fintech and the opportunity that it presents in India.
Fascinating. So clearly, fintech founders have done something differently and they have created massive value in the overall ecosystem. Where has this happened?
See, when we look at fintech over the last decade, and we've been trying to understand where value creation's happened, we think it's been on 4 axes that value creation's happened. We call this the 4 E's. Expansion, experience, efficiency, and enablement. And I'll just break this up a little bit more. See, expansion, which is the fourth E, is effectively increasing the base of people that digital financial services are touching. I think payments is a fantastic example where we were even 7-8 years ago in terms of digital payments to where we are the largest number of digital payments happening in the world. To a bunch of other sectors, right? Whether it is digital broking, unsecured lending, in a bunch of places, fintechs have really expanded the net of people that get touched by digital financial services. Second is experiences. Effectively, this is end-to-end digital experiences, simplifying the experience, making it more engaging. And a number of companies have been built trying to just improve the experience and create almost a 10x better experience for the end user. Efficiency is, if you look at cost and TAT for pretty much anything in the financial services world, from a KYC to a loan underwriting to opening an account, all these have come down by anywhere from 60 to 90% over the course of the last 10 years. And finally, see, all of this is getting enabled by a web of products which is not seen to the consumer eye. This could be anywhere from core systems like core banking systems, LMSs, policy management systems, to a bunch of other point solutions or payment networks, etc. So see, all of this combines to say across these 4 E's, we have created massive value. And see, this story continues. And let's take an example of credit on UPI, which we think is going to be one of the big disruptions of the coming few years. And whether this is a credit card on UPI or a credit line on UPI or any of these products, let's think through what this enables. So one, this is going to bring a bunch of new to credit people into the credit system. So that is an expansion. For carded customers, what this is going to do is to give them a credit line which they could use at small merchants, build a rewards experience around it, build a engagement experience around it. So that's an experience lever. When we think of credit moving to UPI, just the settlement tax, the cost of issuing a new product, etc., are going to come down. So that's an efficiency lever. And all of this is going to get enabled by a bunch of companies, whether it's a card management system or point solutions like a recon solution or whatnot. So that's enablement. So almost you take one innovation in the fintech world, and that's almost creating a slew of companies across these levers. And that, I think, is just going to keep continuing across multiple new innovations that we build in this country.
I think fintechs have, another point I would like to make, Vishy, is that fintechs have also been aided by a lot of tailwinds in the ecosystem. Obviously, we have a large growing digital population today in India. Almost 500 million users in India are internet savvy. 200 million are digitally transacting. We are also, as Vaas said earlier, have world-class public digital infrastructure built, which enables the ecosystem, right? So for example, if you take payments, so UPI is almost powering 12 billion plus monthly transactions today. If you take data, almost 50 million accounts have been linked to account aggregator ecosystem today. And for identity, almost 99% of Indians have their Aadhaar done, right? So these tailwinds also really enable the ecosystem, and also we have a very enabling regulatory environment that again aids the ecosystem very well.
Super. So clearly, as we've seen, already very large fintech outcomes have got built. As you were saying, I think almost $6 to $7 billion of revenue is what fintechs are generating. Where is the growth going to come from in the next decade?
See, the way we think about this, there's almost 3 archetypes of companies which will get built. One is what we call shapers. These are going to be companies which own very large market share in categories. They pretty much define the category. They create the paradigm for the category. Think of what fintechs have done in payments. Think of what they've done in unsecured lending. Think of what they've done in online brokerage. A bunch of these spaces come to mind. Second is what we call challengers. So these go after very, very large profit and revenue pools, largely taken up by banks and the incumbents today. But they pick a sliver there, build a much better experience, a much better product, and start to chip away at that share. So small share, but very large pools. So still could build very meaningful companies. So these are places like credit cards. These are places like insurance distribution, etc. And third is actually a very interesting category we call catalyst. So these are almost non-existent or very small revenue pools today. And fintechs will almost create products which create these categories. So these are things like business insurance, cross-border SMB payments, and a bunch of other spaces, right? So we think across these 3 fintechs and large outcomes will get created. Now, to contextualize this a little bit in numbers, see, as I said, today we think the fintech revenue pool is anywhere in the 5 to 7 billion mark. The FS revenue pool today is in the 200 billion mark. So we think this FS revenue pool is going to 3x, going, let's say, projecting to FY30. So we're talking about a 600 billion financial services revenue pool. And within that revenue pool, we think fintechs are going to take anywhere from 60 to 70 billion dollars. So almost, if you think of the fintech revenue pool, that's a 10x growth we're looking at from today, and that's phenomenal. And what all of this means is it's almost a $400 billion market cap creation opportunity purely for fintechs from India. And that's some big numbers, and we see no reason that's not going to happen.
And to add to that, I think we see three broad buckets which excite us going ahead. So the first one is fintech SaaS. So today, banking, financial services institutions, insurance institutions spend more than $10 billion annually in technology. And this is probably less than 3% of their revenue. If you compare this to global and more developed economies, the same institutions, BFSI institutions, spend almost 8 to 10% of their revenue into tech. Still, so we are very excited that the growing spend pool in this will drive a lot of opportunities for fintech SaaS companies to build for this segment, right? To build for BFSI customers. Second, we believe that there is an emergence of large number of platforms who own customer relationships today, right? Which is non-fintech. And what these platforms have is, one, they own the customer relationship and they want to add on multiple fintech products to drive their own revenue and engage their user base. So fintech products which are embedded in the flow of day-to-day transactions is also an exciting space that we want to go deeper in and find more startups in, right? And the third area is where we think about very specific segments that are solved for in fintech, right? So let me go one by one. So one is affluent Indians, right? So affluent Indians have growing discretionary incomes. They have high aspirations. They have a very distinct sort of taste for experiences, right? And there's a lot of opportunity to solve for that segment. We believe that affluent Indians will also continue to drive disproportionate value going ahead for fintechs, right? Second, if I look at the middle income population in India, which is almost like $3,000 to $15,000 income annually. As we spoke about earlier, the digital public infrastructure has driven a lot of penetration in products on payments and credit. But this middle in India segment still lacks access to products such as wealth and insurance products, right? So we believe there are any fintech solving for that segment, enabling access and driving more penetration of wealth and insurance products for the middle income segment in India. That is also exciting for us. Third, there is a set of 200 million Indians today who are underserved even in terms of credit. This is because of probably high cost to serve. So existing institutions have stayed away from that user base. And they have low digital footprint. So lack of documentation, low digital footprint has led to the situation where they're underserved, right? So any play solving for this segment of user, the next 200 million users, and driving access to credit for them is a space that we find exciting too. And lastly, which is very interesting, but we are seeing an emergence of multiple vertical, homogeneous, sort of specialized groups. This could be like, for example, teenagers, it could be schools, it could be just like double income households, whatever that is, right? There are multiple pools of these segments who are sizable today. They're growing, they are becoming digitally savvy, and they have their own nuanced needs. So given that these are sizable populations in themselves, fintechs can target these segments and build solutions end-to-end to cater to these segments as well.
Understood. This is fascinating. I think across a lot of pieces that you touched, whether it is underserved credit, 200 million users, or even fintech SaaS, I think each of these merits deeper conversation and potentially an entire episode in itself.
Yes,
Thanks for that fascinating conversation, Vaas and Kshitij, and for painting a blueprint for the future of fintech in India and how there is a potential $400 billion value creation opportunity for great founders looking to build in this space. In future episodes, we'll go deeper into each of these themes that Vaas and Kshitij touched upon. That's it for now. If you're a builder building in the space, I would recommend you check out our bottom line reports, the link to which is in the description below. Thank you.